their videos off. Sir had privileged to fight a war in Operation Vijay Kargil in 1999. Sir has commanded his unit in super high altitude area at the heights of 16,000 to 18,000 feet with minus 40-degree temperature. Sir is also a qualified interviewing officer who works at Defense Institute of Psychological Research and thereafter posted as interviewing officer in SSB. Sir has interviewed more than 2,000 candidates. Sir has also commanded as a brigade and was the deputy GOC. And Sir has served in all difficult areas of Jammu and Kashmir and northeast of India. Now you officially begin the session for today of career of law graduates in the field of army. I'd request you, sir, to please start the session by giving brief introduction of you as your in your. Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, sir. Sir, please give a brief introduction as a life in army as an officer of yours.
Okay. Before I touch upon life in army, firstly, good evening to everybody. It's a great honor to be part of Legal Intelligence and conduct this webinar on career options for law graduates. At least there will be awakening amongst law graduates that they have option to join defense forces also. Before I start on my life as an army officer, I would slightly highlight the introduction given by Rupam. I'll only touch upon one aspect because that is the most important aspect in my life. He mentioned about my participating in war, Kargil war, that is off Vijay in 1999. I'll just narrate a small episode which is a very emotional one. You all would have heard of Captain Anuj Nayyar, Mahavir Chakra posthumous. He was from my unit. Before he went for the final attack, he took out his engagement ring and he took out his watch, wristwatch which he was wearing. This wristwatch was gifted by his fiancée. He said, "Sir, just keep it for a day. Tomorrow morning I'll come and collect it from you." I collected both the things, kept it in my breast pocket, and I thought tomorrow he'll come and collect it from me. But that tomorrow never came. At 4:30, he was martyred, fighting bravely. He had captured almost entire company post, and finally he was killed by a rocket launcher. And then I was given a very difficult task of informing his father at 5:30 in the morning. My CO told me, I was a major that time, he please inform his father about the death. When I rang him up, his father initially was so brave. He said, don't worry, my son has given his life for the country. He was born for it. So that was the spirit of the family I thought I must narrate. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. Rupam has given my introduction. I don't want to give anything more than this. Now I'll cover what the life in army offers you. It's not a career. It is a way of life. It's full of adventure, challenge. It gives you pride, honor, respect, the aura of wearing uniform. It's pure and noble profession. It gives you golden opportunity to serve one of the finest army in the world, the most professional army, the third largest army in the world. It not only makes you officer, but it makes you gentleman also. Rupam,
Yes, sir.
I suggest if you can switch on their video because there is no eye contact. I only see the names because it's very difficult to communicate for me when there is no audience.
Okay, I request every participant to please switch on their videos.
Videos only, no audience, please.
Yes.
So it not only makes you an officer, better now. It makes you a gentleman also. It teaches you values, integrity, loyalty, honesty, discipline, uh, feeling of brotherhood, spirit of camaraderie. You serve the country for Naam, Namak, and Nishan. It gives you job security. It gives you a class 1 gazetted officer, government job, good salary as per 7th pay commission. You are commissioned by President of India. When you get commissioned into army, you get a certificate duly signed by President of India. No other job gives you a president's commission. The quality of life is very high. You are given opportunity for your professional and personal growth. This is the only job where you are paid to lead a healthy life. It's a compulsion to take part in PT and games. So you are paid to lead a healthy life. Your social status is very high and you have a lot of post-retirement benefits because this is the only organization now which gives you pension. No other state or central government jobs are now giving you pension. So this is in brief what the life in army offers you. There are a lot of things more, but in such a short period, I can only cover these.
Sir, thank you, sir. Can you please guide us on the life expectation of life of a JAG officer in army?
Okay. JAG officer is as good as any other army officer. So he gets what all I mentioned earlier. Besides, this is the only job in the army where you are doing your own profession. That means if you are legally qualified, you will only be doing the job of a legally qualified person. Whereas all other army officers, engineer in army does all kinds of jobs. So many other technicals, they do various kinds of jobs. But a legal officer will only be doing a legal job in the army. That means he is restricted to office kind of job. However, he can take advantages of all the adventure and challenge and various other facilities which I told you earlier with the army office. Now, you get the initial attachment with one of the fighting units for a certain period of time. After that, you are posted to a judge advocate general branch. In short, I'll be calling it JAG branch. I'll briefly touch upon the organization of JAG branch. The JAG branch is headed by a major general who's posted in army headquarters. Under him, there will be few brigadiers, colonels, majors, and captains to help him out. He is a chief legal advisor to our Chief of Army Staff. All legal policies, all legal instructions are issued by JAG branch on behalf of Indian Army. Thereafter, the next headquarter, which is a command headquarter, we have a brigadier rank of JAG officer. Again, under him, there will be colonels, lieutenants, majors, and captains. He is the legal advisor to Army commander, and within the command, he issues all policies pertaining to law and legal issues of Army. The next headquarter we have is a corps headquarter. Again, in the corps headquarter, we have a colonel rank of JAG branch officer. He is called Deputy JAG. Under him, he'll have lieutenant colonels, majors, and captains to assist him. Again, he is a legal advisor to the corps commander. Then certain divisions will have JAG officers where human rights issues are prevalent. Now I'll briefly touch upon what is your role, what is your task as a JAG officer. As I mentioned earlier, you are the legal advisor to the commanders. You vet all legal documents which come to that headquarters, whether it is a court inquiry, whether it is a court martial, whether it is a summary court martial, whether it is summary of evidence. So your advice is taken before any legal action is taken against the accused. Then you can be the member of a general court martial. General court martial is a 5-judge bench where we have 4 members from the regular army and the 5th member is a JAG officer. Now, the 4 members have to be senior to the accused. Say if a major is being court-martialed, all 4 members should be at least lieutenant colonels. However, a JAG officer can even be a lieutenant. And you are the legal advisor in that general court martial. But you have 1 vote as there is a vote for other 4 members each. Then you represent Army in civil courts in case Army has some legal issue with the central government or with other issues. You represent the Indian Army and fight all cases of Indian Army in various courts. Some of you may be confused about Armed Forces Tribunal because a lot of law graduates ask me, sir, our main role will be in AFT. Sorry, you got nothing to do with AFT. AFT is a 2-judge bench court where the one is a retired judge of a high court and the second member is a retired lieutenant general or a major general. Only thing is when certain army cases come into AFT, you as a JAG officer can represent Army in AFT. Then I'll briefly touch upon the manuals. As far as military law is concerned, we got 3 manuals which are called Manual of Military Laws. We call them as Bibles of Military Laws. They are Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. We have Army Act, which is equivalent to your IPCs. We have Army Rules to tell you the procedure, how to go ahead with Army Acts or how to hold various court-martial. Now we have Army Acts for every crime which is committed generally in the Army. Like if somebody is absent without leave, he is charged under Army Act Section 39. Somebody is intoxicated, he is charged under Army Act Section 48. And there is a very general act which is good order and military discipline, which is Army Act Section 63. Just for your information, at this stage, you may not know all this. But the books we refer to are Manual of Military Law. Volume 2 covers all Army Acts. We can take all cases from civil judiciary except for 2. One is murder and second is rape. If anybody of our men are accused in these 2 crimes, then they are dealt by the civil courts. Otherwise, all other cases army can take, and depending on the crime, either general court martial or summary court martial, or what you call it, summary trial. So this is in brief what a JAG officer is expected to do while being in army.
Thank you, sir. Can you please guide us now on the career options for the law graduates in Army?
Okay. As far as career options for law graduates, I'll cover it in two parts. One is when you join army as a law graduate, and second, I'll give you an option which somebody else may not give you. You join army as a plain graduate, like for the normal graduate entry. I'll cover this thing in detail later. First, I'll cover career options for law graduates. Firstly, it is open for both men and women. The minimum qualification is 55% marks in your LLB, and then you should be eligible for being registered in state or central government bar council. I'll repeat, you should be eligible. I'm not sure what is the criteria. You all would be knowing what is the eligibility criteria for getting registered. So it is not you should be registered, but you should be eligible for getting registered. And your marks should be 55% overall. Age, minimum 21, maximum 27. I'll again repeat, age 21 to 27. Unmarried, both male and female should be unmarried. Notification is issued twice a year. Once in July, August. This year's notification can come out anytime, either end of this month or maybe in August. And the second notification will come beginning of next year, January, February. Now the best part of the JAG entry is that there is no written exam. So one level is out. The only thing you have to appear for is Service Selection Board. But I'll cover that SSB in detail later. It's a most comprehensive selection procedure anywhere in the country. No other organization tests you for a period of 5 days. So this SSB is very comprehensive for a period of 5 days. Now for a July-August notification, the SSB is held either end of the year, that is December, or in the beginning of next year. For the January-February notification, the SSB is generally it is a gap of 6 months, July-August. Vacancies are notified time to time, so I can't give you the details. Keep on the lookout for the notification. You will come to know about the vacancies. The training after your selection in the SSB and a very intensive medical, you are shortlisted, and the training starts at Officer Training Academy, Chennai. The first course starts in April, and the second course starts in October. That means if you have applied this July, you will be joining next April. There is a gap of about 9 months. July you apply, say 2020, your training starts 2021 April. And if you apply in January, your training starts in October. The total duration of the training is 49 weeks. Almost 3 weeks less than a year. 49 weeks is the duration of the training. Now, besides Army, there is a JAG entry in Navy also, and a JAG entry in Coast Guard also. I don't have too much of details, but I request you to go to join Indian Navy gov.in, and I'm sure Coast Guard also has a website to get all the details. However, I can tell you The training for Navy JAG officers is conducted in Indian Naval Academy, Ezimala, that is Kerala. A qualification is degree in law. They have not mentioned the percentage. That means there is no restriction on the percentage. However, age, the minimum age is 1 year higher, that is 22 to 27. I could gather only these details for the Indian Navy. For Coast Guard, I'll request you to go to the Coast Guard site because they may not be regular vacancies. There may be vacancies on occurrence. So in case you are lucky, you will find some vacancies in Coast Guard also. Coast Guard also is under Ministry of Defense, so it is as good as Army. Having touched upon JAG entry, I'll give you another option. But this option is available only to people with a lesser age limit. I'll cover that age limit. However, the advantage of this option is that the vacancies are large, very large. So you can try the second option also. That is what the normal graduates do, plain BA, BSc. You will get the advantage of more vacancies. And though I cannot assure you, but at times, if you are a law graduate and you are joined as a normal graduate, you may, underline may, get an option to convert to JAG branch also, depending on the vacancies that time. So I'll cover this option also in detail. This plain graduate entry is a UPSC entry. That means the exam is conducted by Union Public Service Commission. However, there is a rider here. You have a written exam followed by the SSB. The written exam, firstly, I'll cover the permanent commission. In the permanent commission, which is called Combined Defense Service exam, the exam is slightly tougher because you have a maths paper also, and being a law graduate, you wouldn't have studied maths. So there is a maths, English, and a GK paper. This notification is done twice a year. However, you have 100 vacancies per course. That means 200 vacancies in a year. So options are much more. However, the age, some of you may not be fitting into this age because of your 5-year law course. Age is from 19 to 24. Unmarried, again, notification is twice a year. However, since it is a permanent commission, the training is held in Indian Military Academy, Dehradun, and the duration of training is 18 months. Similarly, there is a graduate entry for women also. Again, this is called Combined Defense Service exam. However, there is no maths paper, and it's a short service commission. Again, it is twice a year. Training again is in OTA Chennai, and duration is 49 weeks. For male, there is another entry which is called Short Service Commission. Though it is a UPSC entry, the advantage here is 175 vacancies per course. That is 350 vacancies. 350 vacancies in a year. Training 49 weeks. SSB again twice a year, and training in OTA Chennai. So this is in brief the various career options for law graduates and plain graduates.
Thank you, sir. Can you now please guide us on the application procedure of applying into SSB?
Okay, most of the aspects I have already covered. I'll just briefly cover the application procedure. Firstly, the foremost one, that is Judge Advocate General branch. The notification, as I mentioned, is twice a year. The notification, be on the lookout in the employment news or important daily newspapers or website of Indian Army, join indianarmy.nic.in. Join indianarmy.nic.in. or employment news or in various important national newspapers. It is issued by Directorate General of Recruiting. Now all applications are online. You don't have to fill a physical form. On the Indian Army website, if you go, there'll be a link where you have to fill your application online, and whatever certificates they ask for, you have to upload. As I mentioned earlier, notification is twice a year, July, August. Be on a lookout now. All those who are law qualified, who are LLB with 55% marks, and second one will be next year in January, February. No written, only SSB. And if you apply now, your interviews will be held in December, and you apply in January, your SSB will be held in July next year. Similarly, for Navy, you have to apply through join.gov.in. Join Indian Navy.gov.in, and same online application. And for the normal graduate entry, be on the lookout on the UPSC website. And there is a full page ad in most of the national dailies for the Combined Defense Service examination. This you have to apply online through UPSC website twice a year. Even girls can apply. However, they can apply for short service commission. Male can apply both for permanent commission and for short service commission.
Thank you, sir. Sir, now can you please tell us something about the selection procedure in SSB?
Okay. Actually, I need a separate session for a selection procedure, but here I'll explain you in brief. Firstly, I was an interviewing officer in 14 SSB Allahabad. I was there for 2 years. So I can brief you in detail about the selection procedure. Firstly, is the most comprehensive selection procedure in the world. No organization spends 5 days on a candidate to assess him or her. So you have to be really well prepared for it. Now, it is a 2-stage selection procedure. Stage 1, stage 2. Stage 1 is a screening which most of the corporate world is following, and stage 2 is the actual SSB. The SSB is based on the principle of Mansa, Vacha, and Karmana. Mansa is your mind, which is assessed by a psychologist by the help of psychological testing. Vacha is what you speak, how you convey. It is checked by the interviewing officer during the personal interview, PI. Karmana is what action you do on ground. This is assessed by the group testing officer over a period of 2 days in the ground. Now, coming on to the stage 1, which is a screening test. I would say this is a very important test, because if you don't clear stage 1, you don't go to stage 2. You are eliminated on the first day itself. And the rejection rate is slightly high in the stage 1 test, because nowadays the reporting in the SSB is very high. So they have to screen out large number of candidates. The stage 1 test consists of 4 parts. I'll briefly touch upon these 4 parts. The first part is the IQ test, where there is a written paper. You have 2 tests. One is verbal reasoning, and second is a non-verbal reasoning test. Based on these 2 tests, you get a rating which is called Officer Intelligence Rating. So this rating, or this marks which you get in the IQ test, play a major role in your selection in stage 1. So you have to really practice hard for IQ tests, both verbal and non-verbal. The second test is a PPDT. PPDT is picture perception description test, where they show you a picture for 30 seconds and on a slide, which is a black and white. It is a sketch. It is not a colored picture. And then they give you 4 minutes to write a story. Third test is individual narration, where you get 1 minute to narrate your story in English individually. And the fourth test is a group discussion. Now the aim of stage 1 test is to see whether you are fit to go to stage 2 or not. So I'll cover the important things which are seen in stage 1. Firstly, it is your communication skill. Second, it is your confidence. Third, it is your appearance and bearing. If you are too overweight, if you are too bulky, they may not select you in stage 1, because then you will not be able to do the obstacles which they want you to do there. Then how you behave in a group. Your group behavior is seen in a group discussion. Are you able to convey your points in a group, or you are a shy kind of a person? Are you able to accept the views of others? Then what is your IQ level? What is your perception? Perception is checked. If they have shown you a picture, can you perceive the things correctly in a black and white picture? And lastly, people who have stammer, I recommend please don't apply for armed forces, because you will be eliminated in stage 1 itself. So individual narration, basically they are looking at your communication skills and confidence. In the GD, they are looking at your group behavior. In the GD, what they tell you to discuss, and whatever story you have written, you discuss amongst various candidates, and you are told to come to a common group story. Next, this is all about stage 1. Now I'll briefly touch upon the stage 2 test. Stage 2 test is the main test, which is held over a period of 4 days, which consists of 3 parts: interview, psychology, and GTO. Now, a lot of people have doubt, ki sir, in interview, my legal knowledge will be checked. Sorry, there are hardly any questions on your legal knowledge. And we don't check your knowledge on military law also. All interviews in SSB are personality-based interviews. We assess your personality. In that, we look at your 3 main parts: what kind of schooling, what kind of friends, what kind of teachers, what kind of sports games you have played. Then we look at your family, then we look at your hobbies. So the personal interview is conducted over a period of 30 to 40 minutes. A very important part, and but it is only related to your personality, nothing to do with your legal knowledge. However, a bit of current affairs or general knowledge may be asked. Then the next test is a psychological test. This psychology test is divided into 4 parts. Mentally quite tough. The first is a word association test, where they show you 60 words, one at a time on a PowerPoint. Each word is shown to you for 15 seconds, and you are required to make a sentence. Those 15 seconds are total time to see the word and jot down your sentence. So you really need to practice. Aim is not to see your sentence making ability or check your English. Aim is to assess your personality. Because when you jot down a thought, say a negative word like murder or kill or something is shown, what thoughts are coming into your mind? or when a positive word is shown like bravery or kindness or grateful, what kind of thoughts are coming into your mind. Second test is a TAT, thematic perception test, where they show you 11 pictures. Each picture is shown for 30 seconds. You get 4 minutes to write a story. Again, here you put yourself on the picture and unknowingly you are writing about your personality. The third test in the psychology series is a situation reaction test, where you are given 60 situations, very routine day-to-day situations, but a lot of your qualities come out in this, how you react to these situations. Like if there is a fire in your neighborhood, you are in the neighborhood, what will you do? You are walking along the river, somebody is drowning, what will you do? So these kind of situations, you are traveling in a train, your pocket has been pickpocketed. How will you react? And last in the psychology series or test is a self-description test, where you write opinion of your teachers about you, parents about you, your friends about you, and what you think about yourself. Again, a very tricky test. You have to be very careful what you write on the views of these people about yourself. So this is psychology. Then is a ground test, which are held over a period of 2 days. Again, there is a lot of wrong notion that it is more of physical. I would say it is more of mental. Because when you listen to my 10 tests, which I'm going to tell you, you'll see half of them are all checking your mental agility. First is a lecturate, where they give you a card. You have 4 topics. You have to pick one topic. You get 3 minutes to prepare, and you have to deliver a lecture for 3 minutes extempore without referring to any notes. These lectures, topic can be current affairs, the topics can be social issue. Then we have a group discussion. There are 2 group discussions, one on current affairs, one on social issues, 10 to 15 minutes each GD, where they see your group behavior, your knowledge, your confidence, your communication skill. Then they have a group planning exercise, mini planning exercise on the similar lines as military operations. Then they have a group obstacle race. Then they have individual obstacles, where for men there are, I think, 10 obstacles. For women there are less and slightly shorter obstacles. And then they have various tasks which involves your mental agility to solve a given problem. I'll not get into details. Those who are really keen, then those can contact me. I'll be able to tell them in detail. And on the last day, there is a conference where all 3 assessors, that is the interviewing officer, GTO, and the psychologist, they sit together, they call you, ask few questions to you, and finalize your result. And the last day, the result is announced. So this is in brief about SSB. Anybody who's really keen, who's really appearing, can contact me. My number is available with them. It is 94740-19113. I'll again repeat, 94740-19113. Any further doubts on SSB procedure, you can contact me. I think Rupam will put up my contact details on the chat box. You
Yes,
can
sir.
note down later.
During the end of the webinar, I'll be putting sir's phone number and email ID in the chat box. You can now contact sir for future. Sir, thank you, sir. So moving on to the next question. Can you just, sir, tell me what are the qualities that one's officer should possess with himself or herself during the field of army?
Okay. Some of you would have heard of these qualities. These qualities are known as officer-like qualities. Now, all 3 assessors, I told you there are 3 assessors in actual SSB, a GTO, a psychologist, and the interviewing officer. All 3 are looking for the same officer-like quality, that is the 15 OLQs. The method of looking at you is different. The technique of looking at you is different. It is like 3 CCTV cameras placed in a room at 3 different angles, but focusing on one object. That object is a candidate, and what these cameras are looking for is the 15 OLQs. I'll briefly touch upon them. Uh, in fact, even those people who are not very keen to join army, if they follow some of these OLQs, they'll be very successful in life. Okay. The first one is effective intelligence. Though the name is intelligence, it is not your IQ, but it is your practical intelligence. How in day-to-day practice you use your intelligence to solve whatever problems you face in life. It is how you manage your resources. Whatever resources you have got, when you have adequate resources, you can solve a problem. But when you have limited resources, you have limited time, you have limited resources, limited people under you, it will be always better if you can solve your problem. Your aim, your goal setting behavior, your time management, all comes under effective intelligence. You must have an aim in life. You must have a goal setting behavior. Your time management, especially in the present day competitive world, is very, very important. You should not be wasting even a minute of your life. So time management is very important. Next quality is reasoning ability. Reasoning ability, we call it RA in short. It is based on your grasp. How quick you are at the grasp. Your boss has given you order. Have you understood it? Or you're repeatedly asking him to repeat the problem which he is putting up to you. The receptivity, how you understand orders. Your inquiring attitude. A lot of people have inquiring attitude from small childhood, how this works, how this thing is working, how TV is working, how telephone is working. That is what we call it inquiring attitude. How analytical you are, how you analyze, how you prioritize your problem, and how you recommend a solution. Say if you're fighting a legal case, how you analyze that case and how you go to your boss and tell him these are the 4 options. Option 1 is this, option 2 is this, option 3 is this, option 4 is this, and my recommended option is option 1. So he'll feel happy. He'll get a very big view of how you have analyzed the case or how you have analyzed the problem. Next quality is organizing ability. How you are organize yourself in a systematic way. How you use your resources in a systematic way. Simply by looking at your room, I can find out what is your organizing ability. Girls are better than boys in organizing ability because their rooms are always well kept. However, boys will keep throwing their clothes, books, bags everywhere. So parents are always worried about boys not keeping their rooms well. So that is one aspect. How your thought process is organized in your brain. When somebody asks you something, how organized reply you give it to him. There are people who are very confused. That means their organizing ability is not very good. Then we have power of expression. Power of expression, people confuse it with English. No, we are not looking at people with a convent English. We are looking at people who with very easily, with clarity, can express their thought process with ease and clarity. How you convey. It may be mix of Hindi and English, but the thing is how well you convey the thought process to your seniors. Then we come to the very important quality which is utmost in army is social adaptability. Social adaptability means how you adjust to the environment, how you adjust to your superiors, subordinates, and colleagues. People adjust very well to the superiors. The problem comes with the colleagues and subordinates. You don't want to adjust with them. So your social adaptability comes into play if you have very well adjusted with all 3. and more important, with your subordinates and with your colleagues. How tactfully you handle a difficult situation. Then comes an important quality of cooperation. Uh, you may give your cooperation, or you may work when you are the project head. But when somebody else is head of the project, you may not give that cooperation. That means you don't have that quality of cooperation. Because you are not worried, कि यार project का head तो somebody else is there, why should I work? Whatever credit is going to him, why should I work? So that is a negative attitude. So cooperation is calculated, or it's assessed when you are helping others, when you are not the boss, when you are not head of that project or this thing. Then is sense of responsibility. Again, a very important quality where discipline, your values, your dependability all come out. Values of loyalty, integrity, spirit of brotherhood and all. Then we have initiative. Initiative, you all know what is initiative, but you may be knowing half the meaning of it. Ki if I originate an idea or if I originate an action, it is called initiative. It is halfway through. You may originate an action, but if you are not able to sustain it, it is not called initiative. So originate an action, and if you are able to sustain it, and this initiative or this origin of an action should be without orders. Okay. Then is self-confidence. Very simple. If you have faith in yourself, if you are very sure of yourself, a lot of people are not sure of themselves. They are always in doubt. Should I do this? Should I not do this? So this is where your self-confidence. Should I take law? Should I take science? Should I take BTech? So this, your self-confidence is low. You are not clear in your ideas in life. Then we have speed of decision. Though the name is speed of decision, it doesn't mean a very fast decision. Though in army we need very fast decisions, but coupled with it, we say timely and accurate decision. You take a very speedy decision and you kill your men. That will not be speed of decision. You take a speedy decision, but it has to be correct also. So I would say more important is correct than giving a speedy decision. Ability to influence a group. If you are a good leader, you will be able to obtain willing cooperation of your group without forcing them. Now it is a reverse of cooperation, where you are not a leader. In ability to influence group, you are a leader. Now you want support of your subordinate. So it is your charisma, your leadership qualities which will make them a willing worker. And then is liveliness. Liveliness is not laughing or smiling or joking. It is to remain cheerful under difficult circumstances, under stressful situation. You are not depressive. You don't have fear of failure. And lastly, we have three qualities: determination, courage, and stamina. Determination is a sustained effort by you to attain your objectives, to achieve your objectives, despite setbacks in life. You may face a lot of setbacks. You want to do LLM, you may not qualify the test, you may face repeated setbacks. But if you are determined, you will keep appearing for the test and ultimately do LLM for a good college. Just giving you a small example to achieve your goal. Courage. Courage is to risk willingly. It is again divided into two parts. One is physical courage, which you all know. Second is the more important, which is the moral courage. Moral courage is very important in your corporate life also. You've done a mistake, please go to your boss and tell him, sorry sir, I've done this. My fault. I can tell you number of my own personal examples. As a CO, somebody else has done wrong under you. The commander is asking you the name of that officer or a Jawan. I used to say, sir, I have done it. I am responsible because I am head of the team. And thereafter, there were no questions asked, no inquiry ordered, nothing. Even as a brigade commander, if GOC is asking you, who is responsible? Sir, I am responsible. So you must have moral courage. And this is very important in your corporate world. If you have done something wrong, please accept it. The boss will always feel happy. He will not go any further to go into details why the things went wrong. And lastly is the stamina. Again, stamina is divided into two parts. One is physical stamina, you all are aware. But we don't pay too much of attention to physical stamina because physical stamina is trainable in 49 weeks or 18 months. But we are more worried about mental stamina. How you face things under stress, under pressure. Can you undertake mental stamina? Or do you have adequate mental stamina? Okay, so this is in brief because otherwise if I have to speak on OLQs, I can take a 2 or 3 hours class on that.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So, sir, if you permit me, we can move on to the question answer round.
Okay. You can unmute them, those who want to ask questions.
Sir, we have it in our chat box.
Okay.
Yeah. So, sir, we have a first question from Deepika. She's asking that, as mentioned by you, your the age criteria is 21 to 27.
Okay.
But what if the age 27 is getting completed between the training period of 49 weeks?
No. You should be 27 before applying. Or, sorry, it is before joining. It can't be during training period. Can you show the candidate who's asked me this question? Because, okay, I'll do it. Who has asked this question?
Deepika, sir.
Deepika, I don't know where is she. Okay, Deepika. But her video is not there, so I can't see her. What's her age? Deepika? Hello?
Yes.
Rupam?
Yes, sir.
Is it pertaining to her or it's a general question?
It's a general question, sir.
Can you repeat her question?
Sir, as mentioned by you that the age one should apply is between 21 and 27. Then
Okay.
What if a person age is getting completed during the 49 weeks training that has been done?
No, if she is less than 27 before joining, she is okay. It is not on commissioning. Have you understood? It is before joining, she should be less than 27. If she is completing 27 during training, she is eligible.
Okay, sir. Moving on
Have
to
you
the next
understood?
question. Yes, sir.
You can unmute the candidate who's asking the question so that it is interactive. Because Deepika is not unmute.
I'll request the host Priya to please unmute Deepika if possible.
Okay, we can go to the next question.
Yes, sir. The next question is from Kiran. She is asking that what are the skills required for the SSB exam? Can you tell it once again? And is math compulsory part for it? And what are the additional skills to qualify for that?
See, I covered the SSB thing in detail. What are the kinds of tests and what are the expectations? If she's got further doubt, she can contact me on mobile. I'll explain in detail to her. Otherwise, I have explained what are the various tests, like in interview, what we are looking for. In ground testing, we have a lecturate, we have a GD, we have a group planning exercise, we have some physical tests. In psychology, I told what are the 4 tests where you are told to make sentences, you're supposed to react to the situations, you're supposed to write stories on TAT. So it's a very longish and comprehensive, which I covered in almost 10 minutes I spent on the SSB. If they have further doubt, they can contact me on my mobile number.
Thank you, sir. And moving on to the next question is from Swastika. She is asking that what is the syllabus in JAG exam?
There is no JAG exam. I told you there is no written exam. It is only SSB. Whereas if you are going for a graduate entry, which is a UPSC, for girls, there are 2 papers. One is English and one is general awareness. If you go to the UPSC site, you will get the syllabus for a plain graduate entry. For JAG entry, there is no written exam. It is only SSB.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the next question is from Tandu Mittal. She is asking that how one should prepare or one should build his or her CV for SSB interview.
There is no CV which is to be prepared. There is a form which we call personal information questionnaire form. When you report to the SSB, you have to fill that form. It's a very fixed format, which is asking all your academic and your extracurricular and sports and game details. This form is available on internet. If he or she types personal information questionnaire form, you can download that form, and it is very comprehensive. Everything is mentioned how to fill that. You don't have a freedom to prepare your own CV. It's a format oriented CV. You can't even deviate an inch. Like for example, in place of height, they have written in bracket, they have written in meters. So you can't write 5 feet 10 inches. You have to write 1.56 or 1.76 meters. So it's a very fixed format for the CV.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Sweta. She is asking what is the difference between short service commission and permanent service commission?
Okay. Permanent commission, you continue serving till you attain superannuation, which may be at the age of 56, 58, 50 or 60, depending on your rank of retirement, because we have different age for colonel, different age for brigadier, and different age for general. For JAG, it may be 56, 58, 60. But short service commission, you have to serve compulsory for 10 years. After 10 years, a board is held. You are considered for permanent commission, provided you are keen. If you are keen and the board finds you fit, you are given permanent commission, then you are as good as other permanent commission officers. If you are found unfit or if you are unwilling, then after 10th and before 14th year of service, you can leave the organization anytime. That means it is not a pensionable service. You maximum can serve up to 14 years if you don't get permanent. So you have a choice of leaving army after 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 years. And if you are keen and if you are done well in your reports and courses, you will get permanent and you continue serving till end. And officers who are short service commission, they are offered a 6 months IM course, which is specially made for defense officers at one of these IMs. And once you do that course, and if you are legally qualified, the corporate world will pick you like anything. And you are young at age, you are just 35 or so, you will be picked up anytime.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the next question is from Kiran. She is asking that our JAG candidates are also transferred like the army members from place to place and from
yes,
time to time?
Definitely. No job in army is non-transferable. Only advantage is like we as a regular infantry officers, we have served in Kargil, we served in Leh, we served in all kinds of terrains. JAG officer generally will get good postings, because I told you the headquarters where you can get posted are generally at okay places. But it is a transferable job every 2.5 to 3 years.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the next question is from Rohan. He's asking what are the qualifications to practice as defense lawyer in armed forces tribunals?
I told you, because there is a lot of confusion that you can practice as a lawyer in armed forces. Any civilian lawyer can practice as a lawyer in AFT. But if you are in a JAG branch, you got nothing to do with AFT, because there are only two judges. One is a retired High Court judge and one is a very senior retired army officer. You can only go there to fight if you are in uniform. If you are in army as a JAG branch officer, you may be detailed to go there to fight cases on behalf of army. But if you want to practice in AFT, then you have to be a civil lawyer. You can't be in army.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Mehak. She is asking what are the opportunities for the law students and the CS students in official ranks of army? If someone has done law plus CS during his graduation, what are the opportunities he or she may avail?
CS is company secretary.
Yes, sir.
Nothing. Same as a law graduate. No extra benefit. No extra benefit. We have no role for CS, because we have our separate clerks and accountants. And law officer has got nothing to do with CS.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Advocate Kalpana Bharti ma'am. She's asking if someone passed in physical or ground test in highest mark but couldn't submit documents as required, then he can reject or allow. And what are the important documents must be needed? And also what are the procedures to become a legal officer in Indian Army?
I have not understood the question. I read it also here. She says ki if you pass your test, physical test in a higher testing marks, what is the connection of passing physical test with the submission of document? Which document she is talking? Can you ask her?
Actually, sir, the documents, if someone passes the physical test, what are the documents that one need to submit? And what if the documents are not submitted?
See, there is no connection with physical test and the documents. You do well in physical test. Do you think you don't? The document which we require are your LLB degree. That's all. Have you understood? We are not looking for any other documents. So what is the connection with passing physical tests in higher marks and document? I hope he or she is not referring to sports certificates or not. They are not very important. Even if you have not played any games, you can get selected.
Okay, sir. Sir, our next question is from Arnav. He is asking, sir, can a JAG officer get permanent commission? If yes, under what circumstances?
I told you, JAG officer can get permanent commission after 10th year of service or during 10th year of service. He has to fill an application giving that he is volunteer to get a permanent commission. Then a board will be held. It will analyze his annual reports and his course reports. If he comes into the merit, he will be given permanent. So large number of JAG officers, they are permanent. If we have a Major General, that means he is a permanent commission.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the next question is from Isa. She is asking that if someone owns a certificate in NCC, can it be of any use for law graduates in joining army?
Yes, NCC is always preferred. He or she will have an advantage if NCC certificate is there. In any case, it will help her to do well in SSB. And I hope the NCC certificate is a C certificate.
Yes, sir, C certificate.
C certificate has a separate entry also. She can explore that also. Without any written exam, there is a direct SSB for NCC certificate holders, provided they meet the age criteria.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to our next question is from Tannu again. She is asking that do we need any particular course or internship under any particular lawyer which might be helping the aspirants after getting commission?
No, nothing. If you had heard my minimum qualification, it is LLB degree with 55% marks. And nowhere in this 5 days of testing will ask you any legal questions. Maybe 1 or 2 legal questions on your interview. Otherwise, psychology, GTO, no legal questions.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Mosumi. She is asking that what are the age limits for the backward classes, like for the STs and SCs?
This is the only organization which doesn't have backward class reservation. All those who are a non-category, they should be grateful. This is the only organization in India where there is no reservation. So no SC, ST, OBC, all are same. No promotions, no reservations, no age relaxation. Some people are smiling, I can see that.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one question from my side as well. That if someone who has done LLB plus LLM, what are the opportunities he or him may have in RV field?
No separate this thing, same. If you are, even after doing LLM, you will join as a JAG officer only with no seniority. Only thing, once you join, then you will be given more respect because you are a LLM. However, it makes no difference because the basic qualification is LLB. And you may not meet the age criteria if you are LLM. You may cross that age of 27.
Thank you, sir. Can you, sir, refer some of the books and the notes that one can prefer for preparing in SSB? Any books?
No,
if you want
I am strongly against things which are available on internet, things which are available on YouTube. Most of the books are written by people who have not been in the SSB. So I would request all those who are preparing, if they can consult somebody who has been in the SSB, that would be ideal.
Thank you, sir. One last question from Tannu. She's asking that, sir, if we apply for SSB interview through NCC and also get recommended, but the student is still completing his or her integrated course of 5 years law, will the student be provided with the time of completion, or it will be a non-recommendation for the candidate?
See, if you are not a graduate, you cannot apply for NCC. You have to be graduate before joining the academy. That means you have to submit your degree. Say if your course is starting in March, by March you should be having your BA LLB or BA degree. Have you understood? So whether NCC, whether LLB, whether plain graduate, whichever entry you join, before joining, maximum they may give you 20 days provisional admission. And if you don't get your degree by then, you may have to pay for your training and you are thrown out. So it is always better to have degree in your hand before you join.
Thank you, sir. Now I'd request our founder, Priya Gupta, to give a vote of thanks to you, sir.
Yes. I would like to take this opportunity to place on records our heartiest thanks to sir for sparing time from his busy schedule and to share his expertise with us and to grace the webinar on career option for law graduates in Army. We appreciate having this mysterious area clarified with ease and for the guidance sir has imparted to all of us. Thank you again, sir, for the information you shared and for taking time to poise the event. We are very fortunate to have you as our speaker. Without your support and insight, it would have been impossible to organize an event like this. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And it was a wonderful experience interacting with you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to the young law graduates. I'm sure some of them will be motivated to apply and join the elite Indian Army. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot for joining us.
And my number has been shared. Those who have some doubts, they can contact me. I can see it on the chat.